Good afternoon, dear students. Previous session, we start to learn about the limits of civil disobedience movement. See, here all groups, so they were not moved by the abstract concept of Swaraj. All the social groups, for example, one such group, already we learned something about this topic, that is about the nation's untouchables. The nation's untouchables. The nation's untouchables. So, dear students, the untouchables who from around the 1930s began to call themselves as Dalits or oppressed. So, last class we came to know that even for a long time the Congress also ignored the Dalits because the Congress was fear of offending the Sanatanis or the upper class people in the subcontinent. Those were actually the conservatives, high class Hindus. So that's what the Congress had ignored the Dalits for a long time. But what about Mahatma Gandhiji? So we came to know that Mahatma Gandhiji, he was declared that because he was understood well, without unifying, without eliminating the practice of untouchability in the society, without dignifying the status of those class people, so we would not come for even 100 years also, so we cannot achieve the Swaraj. This is what the belief of Mahatma Gandhi. Getting these students. So Gandhi declared that Swaraj would not come for 100 years even if the untouchability was eliminated. He called the untouchables Harijan. So Mahatma Gandhiji, he was called untouchables as Harijans. That means the children of God. Harijan means the children of God. And Mahatma Gandhiji was organized Satyagraha to secure them entry into temples. Entry into temples. And access to public wells, tanks, roads and schools. And also Gandhiji himself cleaned toilets to dignify the work of the banki. Those were called as the sweepers. Himself he was clean the toilets by one to dignify the work of the sweeper class people, and persuaded upper caste to change their heart and give off the sin of untouchability. But dear students, many Dalit leaders were keen on a different political solution to the problems of the community. Many different the Dalit leaders, they began organizing themselves, demanding reserved seats in the educational institutions, and even they were demanded for a separate electorate that would choose Dalit members for legislative councils. And they believed that about the political empowerment that would resolve the problems of their social disabilities. Dalit participation in the civil disobedience movement was therefore limited. So that's what, dear students, the participation of the Dalit people in the civil disobedience movement. So it is limited. It was limited. So particularly in Maharashtra and Chota Nagpur, Nagpur region, so where their organizations were quite strong there, so that we can see that the participation of the Dalits in the civil disobedience movements is a very limited and rare. So dear students, we all of knows that the chief architect of our Indian Constitution was drafted and was actually the drafting committee chairman of our Indian Constitution, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. See, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, he was organized the Dalits into the Depressed Classes Association in 1930. So, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar was actually the leader of this community, who belongs to this community. He was organized Dalits into Depressed Classes Association. Depressed Classes Association in 1930. See, he was actually clashed with Mahatma Gandhi and the Second Roundtable Conference by demanding separate electorates for Dalits. ನಿಮಗೆ ತಿಳಿದೇ ಇದೆ ಮಕ್ಕಳೇ, ಗಾಂಧಿಯ ವಿಚಾರಗಳಿಗೂ, of course, Gandhiji, he was also tried to eliminate untouchability in our country. Was worked for those who are specially called as the untouchables and Dalits, or those who are lagging behind socially, economically. But the way of and the vision in this struggle to remove the social disabilities for the depressed class people, so it is so different. Ambedkar view about these class people, it is so different. ಸೊ ಮಹಾತ್ಮ ಗಾಂಧಿ ಅವರ ವಿಚಾರಧಾರೆಗಳಿಗೂ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ B.R. ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ್ ಅವರ ವಿಚಾರಧಾರೆಗಳಿಗೂ ಸೊ ಈ ಒಂದು ಅಸ್ಪೃಶ್ಯತೆ ನಿವಾರಣೆಯ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಇದ್ದಂತಹ ಒಂದು ವಿಷನ್ ಏನಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಬಹಳಷ್ಟು ವ್ಯತ್ಯಾಸದಿಂದ ಕೂಡಿತ್ತು. ಗಾಂಧಿ ಅವರ ವಿಚಾರಕ್ಕೂ ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ್ ಅವರ ವಿಚಾರಕ್ಕೂ ಸೊ ಹೋಲಿಕೆನೇ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಈ ಒಂದು ಅಸ್ಪೃಶ್ಯ ನಿರ್ಮೂಲನೆ ಒಂದು ಹೋರಾಟದಲ್ಲಿ ಗಾಂಧಿ ಹಾಕಿದಂತಹ ಹೆಜ್ಜೆಗಳು, ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ್ ಅವರು ಹಾಕಿದಂತಹ ಹೆಜ್ಜೆಗಳು ವಿಭಿನ್ನ, ಆದರೆ ಗುರಿ ಒಂದೇ ಆಗಿತ್ತು. ದೇಶದಾದ್ಯಂತ ಅಸ್ಪೃಶ್ಯತೆಯನ್ನ ನಿವಾರಣೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. This is one of the ill practice of the society, that is about the practicing untouchability. ಅದನ್ನ ತೊಡೆದು ಹಾಕಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದೇ ಇಬ್ಬರು ಗುರಿ ಆಗಿದ್ರು ಸಹ, ಇಬ್ಬರು ಹೊರಟಂತಹ ಆದಿ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಅವೇ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಸೊ ಅದು ಬಹಳ ವಿಭಿನ್ನವಾಗಿತ್ತು. It was clashed with Mahatma Gandhi at the Second Roundtable Conference by demanding separate electorates for Dalits. It was demanded a separate electorate for Dalits in the Second Roundtable Conference. See, and the British government considered Ambedkar's demand. Gandhiji began a fast unto death. So actually, in the Second Roundtable Conference, the demand by the Ambedkar that was considered by the British government, that is accepted by the British government. But Gandhiji was not satisfied. He was not happy with that. So you don't want to make separate electorates for the Dalits. But the reason is different. ಅವ್ರು ಕೊಡಬಾರ್ದು ಅನ್ನೋ ಉದ್ದೇಶ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಅವ್ರು ದೂರ ಆಗ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ, ಸಮಾಜ ಒಡೆದು ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋ ಒಂದು ಭಯ ಇತ್ತ. ಸೊ ಅದಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, ಗಾಂಧೀಜಿ ಅವರು ಅಮರಣಾಂತ ಉಪವಾಸ ಸತ್ಯಾಗ್ರಹವನ್ನು ಪ್ರಾರಂಭ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ದಟ್ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ಸೊ ಫಾಸ್ಟ್ ಅಂಟು ಡೆತ್, ಅಮರಣಾಂತ, ಸಾಯೋ ತನಕ ನಾನೇನು ತಿನ್ನಲ್ಲ ಅಂತೇಳಿ ಅಮರಣಾಂತ ಉಪವಾಸ ಸತ್ಯಾಗ್ರಹವನ್ನು ಪ್ರಾರಂಭ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. He believed that why he was not accepted or not happy with that, why he was started began a fast unto death, because Mahatma Gandhiji, he was believed that separate electorates for Dalits would slow down the process of their integration into society. ಸೊ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಪ್ರತ್ಯೇಕವಾದಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಮತಕೇಂದ್ರಗಳನ್ನು ಕೊಡೋದ್ರಿಂದ that would slow down the process of their integration into society. ಅದು ಸ್ಲೋ ಡೌನ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಅದು ಎಫೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಅವ್ರನ್ನ ಇಂಟಿಗ್ರೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ನೋ ಒಂದೇ ಒಂದು ಕಾರಣಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಅವ್ರು ಅದನ್ನ ಅಪೋಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಬಟ್ ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ್ ಅಲ್ಟಿಮೇಟ್ಲಿ accepted Gandhiji's position, and the result was the Pune Pact of September 1932. The Pune Pact of 1932 is one of the important pact. So in the month of actually September 1932 ನಲ್ಲಿ the Pune Pact ಗೆ ಸಹಾಯ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. See, when Ambedkar ultimately accepted Gandhiji's position, and the result was the Pune Pact of September 1932. So, according to this Pune Pact of 1932, it gave the depressed classes, later actually to be known as the what we called in the present the scheduled caste or SC. Scheduled caste, or those were called as SC. So, it gave the depressed class for the scheduled castes reserved seats in provincial and central legislative councils. So, the Pune Pact of September 1932 provided to these depressed classes, or those were called as then later known as the scheduled caste. So, for those reserved seats are reserved in provincial and central legislative councils, but they were to be voted in by the general electorate. Of course, the seats are reserved in the provincial councils and as well as in the general, what we called the central legislative councils, but here they can stand. But here they are actually voted in by the general electorate, not only by those who are the depressed class. So ಎಲ್ಲ ವರ್ಗದ ಎಲ್ಲ ಜನಾಂಗದ ಆ ಒಂದು ಮತಕ್ಷೇತ್ರದಲ್ಲಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಎಲ್ಲ ಜನರು ಸಹ ಚುನಾಯಿಸತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಆ ಒಂದು ಆಯ್ಕೆಯನ್ನು ಕೊಡುತ್ತೆ. What we are following in the present day, we all knows the dear students, some of the MLA, some of the MPs constituencies in our country reserved for those candidates, those who belongs to SC ST. That's called reserved constituencies. So reserved even till today, dear students, a reserved constituency, whether only those who are belongs to that respective category they are going to cast their vote. No, all the voters, irrespective of their religion, caste, economic status or social background, each and everyone, so they are going to elect. That's called the general electorate. They were to be voted in by the general electorate. So the Dalit movement, however, continued to be offensive of the Congress-led national movement. So it is about the depressed class, how they were reacted to the civil disobedience movement. And now let us discuss about what about the Muslims. So it is actually within the Hindu religion, the depressed class people or those who are called as the untouchables, how the different scholars, leaders like Mahatma Gandhi and Ambedkar, they were struggled to remove in their own way the practice of untouchability in our country. Now let us discuss about the Muslims, how they were reacted, and what about their political organizations. See, during this time, some of the Muslim political organizations in our subcontinent were also lukewarm in their response to the civil disobedience movement. Getting now, so some of the Muslim political organizations in India, so they were also lukewarm in their response to the civil disobedience movement. After the decline of non-cooperation Khilafat movement, a large section of Muslims, they were felt alienated from the Congress. So ಬಹುಶಃ ನಾವು ಕಾಂಗ್ರೆಸ್ ಇಂದ ದೂರ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ ಅಥವಾ ಕಾಂಗ್ರೆಸ್ ಅವರು ನಮ್ಮನ್ನ alienate ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಅವರು ಅಂದ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾರೆ. They believed like that. They felt like that. So some of the Muslims, so they were felt alienated from the Congress. From the mid-1920s, the Congress came to be more visibly associated with openly Hindu religious. Getting dear students. So after 1920s, so what happened? So the Indian National Congress came to be more visibly associated with openly Hindu religious nationalist groups like Hindu Mahasabha. Understood? Then afterwards, as relations between Hindus and Muslims, that's become very worse. When the Congress associated with the Hindu Mahasabha openly, then the relationship between Hindus and Muslims was. Each community organized religious processions with a militant fervor, provoking Hindu-Muslim communal clashes and riots in various cities, various towns in the countryside. The Hindu-Muslim communal clashes and riots provoking. So every riot deepened the distance between the Hindu and Muslims. So day by day what happened? So the relationship between Hindus and Muslims, it's become worse, and they are actually deepened the distance also between these two communities. The Congress and the Muslim League, so both made efforts to renegotiate an alliance. The Congress and as well as Muslim League, so made efforts to renegotiate an alliance. And in 1927, it appeared that such a unity could be forged. The important differences were over the questions of representation in the future assemblies that were to be elected. So here, Muhammad Ali Jinnah was one of the leaders of the Muslim League. He was willing to give up the demand for separate electorate. If Muslims were assured reserved seats in the Central Assembly and representation in the proportion of to population in the Muslim dominated provinces, especially in Bengal and Punjab. Getting these students. So Muhammad Ali Jinnah was one of the prominent leaders of the Muslim League. So he was willing to give up the demand for separate electorates. But if Muslims were assured reserved seats in the Central Assembly and representation in proportion to population in Muslims dominated provinces such as Punjab and Bengal. But the negotiations over the question of representation continued, but all hope of resolving the issue at the All Parties Conference in 1928 disappeared when M.R. Jayakar of the Hindu Mahasabha strongly opposed efforts to compromise. Strongly opposed efforts at compromise. So what happened now? The negotiations over the question of representation continued, but after that what happened? All hope of resolving the issue at the All Parties Conference in 1928. All Parties Conference. In that All Parties Conference in 1928, so that was disappeared. Why? Because so Mr. M.R. Jayakar was one of the leader of Hindu Mahasabha, was opposed strongly efforts at compromise. When the civil disobedience movement started, there was thus an atmosphere of suspicion and distrust between communities. So it is about the suspicion and distrust between the communities, like that atmosphere. It was created when the civil disobedience movement was started in our subcontinent. Alienated from the Congress, large section of Muslims could not respond to the call for a united struggle. They were not interested to respond to the call for a united struggle, because the most of the leaders, the large section of the Muslims community, they were alienated from the Congress and they could not respond to call for a united struggle. Many Muslim leaders and intellectuals, so they were expressed their concern about the status of Muslims as a minority within India. Of course, dear students, the present days in India, the Muslim community, it is considered as one of the minority community. So actually here, during that time only, many of the Muslim leaders and intellectuals, they were expressed their concern about the status of Muslims as a minority within India. They feared that the culture and identity of minorities would be submerged under the domination of a Hindu majority. They were feared. Why? They were demanded for the minorities' rights. Understood? Within India. Why they were? So because they feared that the Muslims community, the Muslim people, the large section of the thinkers, the leaders and the intellectuals, so they were expressed their concern about the status of Muslims within India, and they were demanded for the minority state. And they feared about the culture and identity of minorities would be submerged under the domination of a Hindu majority. Understood, dear students? So in this way, so they were actually completely, the large section of the Muslims, they were alienated from the Indian National Congress. I hope, dear students, so you all have understood about the limits of the civil disobedience movement, especially how the different, especially the depressed class people in India and also the Muslims, how they were reacted to the civil disobedience movement. Thank you. Have a nice day. In the next class, we are going to discuss about the sense of collective belonging. Okay. Thank you. Have a nice day.